Okay, what I've decided to do with my guitar this year is I'm going to add a truss rod to it. I'm going to add it to the back of the guitar. Okay, so what I did is I went on the table saw and I cut a 1/4 inch slot for the truss rod. And I'm going to use a 1/4 inch rod. And I threaded the one end. Okay, and then on this end, I took some square nuts and I kind of made like a star shape so it drives into the wood when I tighten it. And then I peened over the end so the bolt or the nut will not come out. Okay, now this rod I got it bent so you could kind of see there's a slight curve to it. All right, so inside here on that slot, I should have like a curve inside there too. So what I decided to do. Okay, now once my truss rod is in, I just want to point this out. What I did is I took another piece of maple, and that's going to fit inside here in this groove, and it's a pretty snug fit. I'm going to take, the way I'm going to figure out the curve of this truss rod that I curved, just kind of bent it to shape. I'm going to take a piece of the maple, set it on a flat surface like the table saw, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to scribe an arc all the way through. And then I'm going to cut that arc out, and then when I put that in, it's going to be to the curvature of that rod. Okay? So that's how I'm going to put it together. That will be glued in here. Just like that. Okay, and then I can shave it down until it's perfectly even with the neck. So the curve is going to go into the guitar like this. Okay, this fits into the slot right here. Okay, I'm going to kind of push it down and it's going to get tightened, and then I'm going to put a nut here. So if the strings start causing this, because there's a lot of tension on those steel strings, so if it starts causing this to go up, I tighten the rod and I can bring it back down. Okay, so that's what I'm thinking for this guitar this year. Okay, so I'm going to add the truss rod to it. Okay, so you can see that I scribed an arc across this truss rod, and I'm going to cut this out on the bandsaw. Look at that. There's a little arc to it. What would be cool, I'm thinking now, so I have the bottom of the arc. So I can probably cut this thin and glue that right down in there. And that would go like this, and then this would go like this. And it would be right in there with the arc. Now here is my truss rod. And there's the wood that's going to follow the profile. Okay, and this is going to be put into the guitar to give it more strength. Alright, so I'm going to cut that bottom piece off, and that's going to get glued into the notch that I cut into the guitar. Okay, now here's the truss rod with the piece of wood that I cut out with the profile of the bend. Okay, so that's right there is what I'm going to glue inside the groove on the guitar. So that's the profile of the bend, that piece of wood underneath. That gets glued into the notch so we have the angle on the truss rod. Okay, and here I'm going to take this piece of wood and I'm going to glue it in here. Okay, and that's the one with the taper, the shape of the truss rod. Okay, that's going to get glued into that notch that I cut on the table saw, so we have the curvature on the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to just wood glue that in. Okay, the way I made the notch for the square nuts is I used this chisel, and I kind of just scraped it out and kind of chiseled it out with this small chisel. Okay, so that worked really well. I have that piece of wood that I cut on the bandsaw, and I glued the bottom strip in there. Okay, and I'm going to glue this in today. And this is the other piece, and that's how far it's going to go down into the guitar after I glue it up to the blue line. So I got a good 1/8 inch of wood that's going to be above the truss rod. So here's the truss rod. I'm going to put that in. I have the notch there for everything. I'm going to put it in here. Okay, and now it's going to touch against that wood on the bottom. And what I'm going to do to prevent the glue from going on the truss rod, I'm going to put this paper. I cut some paper, little strips. I'm going to put this paper over top of the truss rod, just so the truss rod doesn't get glue all over it. Okay, I'll put this here. I already cut it so it fits. And then I'm going to put that wood in. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some glue on a sticky note. I'm going to glue this right in. So I'll put some glue on a sticky note. It just makes it easier to work with. And I'm going to brush it on. And I already know that this is going to go in like this because I already planned it. And then I also made a little piece to cover up that hole there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to brush it on here. I'm not going to put it on the bottom. And later on, I'll trim it to size. I just thought it would be easier if I brushed it on. I want to make sure I get it on the sides. Some on the other side. Okay, we got it. It's all ready to go. Put that right in here. Wouldn't be a bad idea to put some clamps on it. I'm going to put more clamps on this too. Okay, and then I'm also going to glue this little strip in here because I got that opening there. I'm going to leave the nut show because I kind of like the way that looks to show that I have a truss rod in there. Okay, so I'm going to glue this in. Okay, we sand that smooth later. That fits in there nice and snug. Okay, so there we go. I got my truss rod in place. I'll try to get another clamp on here. Okay, and then this is the nut. I'm going to use a nut, a washer, 2 washers. I'm going to use a regular washer and a lock knot washer. And then it will go on here. And then I'll just tighten that up. But I want you to know that. Okay, so I'll put this here, the nut and washer here. When eventually I'll tighten it up. But I won't tighten it yet. But I want to just point out that I checked this ruler. If I put this ruler right here, I can tell that there's no space in there. So this neck is perfectly straight right now. Okay, and then we'll go from there. But I think we got it pretty good. Added a couple more clamps to this because these clamps can really draw it down. The parallel hand screw clamp. That did a good job. I was able to really draw it down. And you could see as the glue was like squirting out, and that was good. Okay, Okay, so I got a nice tight fit there. Okay, and I think it really turned out good. It got it right up to the line. Okay, so if you look here, I got it right up to that line where I drew. So it's about an 1/8 inch. It's about an 1/8 inch in. And on the ends, it could go up to a 1/4 inch. Okay, so we'll see how that works out, and hopefully that works out really good. I'm going to use a 7/16 wrench to tighten it if I need to straighten the neck at all. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut off this extra that I have. I have the truss rod inside here now. I'm just going to cut this extra off so I can level it up. I'm going to use the bandsaw. I got the blade set up high. Okay, now I have it cut closer, and I'm just going to sand it even, and then I'll be all set.